Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast on the internet that leaves you for dead, says James. That was a
Yes.
quote from James. Um, for our sporadic episode title, we're going to be covering Left 4 Dead 2, the actual Left 4 Dead 2 part of this game this week. And we just are hot off the presses of finishing all the campaigns.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mild
we
rage. It's still in my head.
Yeah, turns out cooperative games can make your friends turn on you, and when you have friendly
Yes.
fire, things get a little
I mean, I don't know
scary.
if I would call it plural. I think that there's one person we're both thinking of.
You see, I was not an innocent in this endeavor too. I was taking shots at people sometimes, but
I mean,
sometimes you got to do it.
if it was just being shot by teammates, I'd be fine.
Yeah. But we just finished Left 4 Dead. We played Dark Carnival through the parish right now because we
Yeah.
were a little behind.
Well, about halfway through Dark Carnival, to be fair.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah,
we had
we started
stopped
at the
midway.
we started at the Tunnel of Love.
Of course, that's where you got to start. So, unfortunately for us, with the well, you know what? Let's just start from the beginning of all the maps, shall we? Let's give
Yeah.
some inject some structure in our podcast.
Yes. That'd
So,
be
the
nice.
first campaign being Dead Center, which is I think a really good starter campaign. It's fun to
hmm
play verses on as well. It's just a really nice no frills beginning campaign.
I like that they start you off with only the secondary weapons. You don't actually get a primary until I think you go down the elevator, and like throughout it they kind of introduce you to new ones. Like they have the magnum in one of the rooms and the chainsaw in another room, and then they give you a couple of the grenade types and stuff like that. Like it's really good progression for honestly people playing the game for the first time, which is kind of interesting
hmm
because considering lots of people already played Left 4 Dead 1, but I think there is definitely an audience that only played 2. So it's nice that they had a sort of tutorial level of sorts in there.
Yeah, I think all the first campaign levels are substantially easier just to kind of dip your feet into them. I
hmm
think we should maybe talk about the new characters that we're embodying, and no longer
Yes.
are we playing as Francis, Zoe, Bill, and Pillsman. Lewis. There we
Pills,
go.
man.
Pillsman. I just know him from the meme of pills, from YouTube poop videos of old. Yeah, but we're playing the new tier list we need to come up with of Coach, Rochelle, Ellis, and Nick. So what's your opinion? What's your tier list of those four?
Mm. I think I would say Ellis is just the best kind of by default because
Mm-hmm.
I think he's actually the character who is closest to being what the memes make him seem like.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, because like literally most of the memes of him are him like telling ridiculous stories about him and his buddy Keith, and you don't even have to make stuff up. The stories are just so dumb that
Mm-hmm.
you don't even have to exaggerate. I don't know. I would say Nick and Coach are kind of even. Like I think I like both of them like equally. And then Rochelle, I don't think Rochelle's like as bad as people say she is. Like she's fine. It's just the other three characters are like particularly exceptional.
Yeah, I was thinking when I originally was gonna rank this, oh yeah, Rochelle bottom tier, whatever. She's not that interesting, but I think she might be more interesting than Nick, to be honest. I think my tier list would be Coach number one, Ellis maybe. I don't really like Ellis that much, but I would put Ellis as two because at least he has stuff going on, and maybe Rochelle then Nick because I think Nick is cool, but at least when we played, I didn't he didn't have that many good one liner things. It was just I don't like germs, and I'm like, this is all
I
right.
think what makes me like Nick is like he's the most ambiguous of all the characters as far as like his past and stuff because he doesn't really talk much about it. But like there's loose implications that he has committed multiple homicides. He was probably in the mafia or something of the sort. Uh, he refers to the witch as his ex-wife.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'm actually looking at the quotes right now. The last time I saw this many crying women was at my wedding.
oh my god. All right, you
Yeah.
know what? They're all solid. These characters. I think they're a little more interesting. I mean, I think the Left 4 Dead 1 characters are probably more iconic. But I think the Left 4 Dead 2 characters are kind of fun. and they talk to each other a lot more than Left 4 Dead
Hmm.
1, or at least playing Left 4 Dead 1 in Left 4 Dead 2, I guess. It's this weird thing.
Oh my god.
But they have a lot of lines of dialogue where they can all kind of talk to each other and say funny things.
Yeah, I'm reading up on Nick on the wiki. This guy's kind of messed up. So it says in the commentary for Left 4 Dead 2, the developers state that Nick's character was originally an escaped prisoner that stole a nice suit, but he was eventually adapted into his current con man persona. It is probable that he is still a convicted felon, as Nick can remark to the effect that he's not legally allowed to own firearms.
Yeah,
Jesus
they're all
Christ.
solid. And you get introduced to them pretty well in Dead Center, and I think there's even dialogue between them where they're like, "Hi, I'm like Rochelle." Like they just like kind of
Yeah,
introduce each other, which
yeah.
I mean that adds some replayability, like
I think
just
the dialogue in this
hearing
game is also
dialogue.
like very natural generally. Like,
Hmm.
when there's a bunch of when it's quiet for a while, they'll say some dumb stories and stuff like that. Like as you said, they introduce themselves and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's I honestly just from like immediately starting Dead Center, I said this out loud. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm liking this way better than Left 4 Dead 1 right now. At
Yeah.
least Left 4 Dead 1 in Left 4 Dead 2, which I have to keep clarifying because I don't. I think Left 4 Dead 1 as a standalone game is actually completely a different experience. So I don't want people coming after me for slandering it. But yeah, no, Left 4 Dead 2, and I'm more nostalgic for it anyway because I actually was playing the Left 4 Dead 2 levels a lot more.
Hmm.
And I think the levels in general, as we go through them, have more stuff going on. Like the first level it's a pretty basic. You're climbing through like the hotels or whatever. You're climbing through a bunch of buildings, and then you have the ending sequence, which is collect like 10 gasoline cans, which was like a big thing that happened in the DLC and also
Yeah.
in Left 4 Dead 2. Just collect X amount of cans missions.
Hmm. I do think the finales felt a little less tedious in Left 4 Dead 2. Part of it is because while the levels are like literally as long, some of them might even be longer. They don't feel as long because there's more set pieces. Like as we were talking about before with Dead Center, it does start off as very like it's simple. You're going down a bunch of hallways with some side rooms, like it's a hotel or something. But when you go down the elevator, there's like all the fire and smoke, and it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. And there's also the fireproof zombies. So yeah, I think like on average, the level design is a lot more intricate, and the actual like narrative of what's going on is more interesting.
Yeah, I think spectacle plays a big role in Left 4 Dead 2 compared to Left 4 Dead 1, where Left 4
Hmm.
Dead 1 felt more grounded in its levels, and it's like you're in a hospital or something like that. And Left 4 Dead 2, you're already right off the bat, you're trying to get gasoline for like a race car, basically to like
Hmm.
drive around, and there's like these whole like big events are in an open space, and that's kind of the least amount of spectacle.
Hmm.
Where I mean, the next level, if you weren't counting the DLC, would be the Dark Carnival, which is full of spectacle. But we should
Yeah.
talk about the Passing, which is a DLC that kind of links Left 4 Dead 1 with Left 4 Dead 2 through their DLC, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Personally, I actually didn't like this much. It so it felt like a Left 4 Dead 1 level, obviously, because it is a Left 4 Dead 1 level, but it felt pretty out of place. They did have like a couple jokes, and it was nice that the old characters and new characters were interacting. But the again, like the lack of set pieces, level just generally feeling like, oh, they just kind of put us in the Left 4 Dead 1 level. We're just kind of doing all this stuff again.
Well, it felt like one of those like fan service moments in like a
Yeah,
show or something where like the old character shows up, or like the new Star Wars movies where it's just like they just pan over and it's just like, oh my god, it's Han Solo, and
it
everyone
was.
claps, kind of
Yes,
deal. It was just like, I don't know, and you just kind of you're replaying like the fill up a gas tank mission again. So if you're playing it
mhm,
in order, you're doing gas tank mission into gas tank mission like
yeah.
back to back, and it's like,
This
it's
was
fine.
this was my Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah. I mean, all of the DLC maps are questionable to be honest. I don't know what they were
Yeah.
doing.
Actually, let me look. There might be one good one. Let's see.
I mean, I don't think that mission, whatever is it the sacrifice,
It's the passing.
the passing or whatever. I don't think that's, or no, I mean the passing is this one, but is it the sacrifice
Oh,
that
the
is that
sacrifice.
map?
Yeah, the Left 4 Dead one. on his
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. I think it's kind of neat,
yeah.
but it is just like it is.
I
Eh.
think I'm looking at the DLC levels. Crash Course was all right.
Oh yeah,
But
no, Crash
yeah,
Course is good.
it's very short though. It's only 2 parts, but
Yeah.
yeah, that one was decent.
Well, anyway, I don't think I even realized they were DLC until like our playthrough now. I just assumed they were there the whole time because the DLC
Yeah.
was free on PC.
hmm
Xbox, they had to buy it. Did this game come out on Xbox first and then come to PC?
Um, I think it came out at the same time.
Yeah, then why did they have to buy it on Xbox and you got it for free on PC?
I don't think you got it for free on PC. I think eventually they made it free on PC.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to like look into that.
I
Um,
can look it up right now.
yeah, but the next stage is Dark Carnival, which I think that was. I think this might be a fan favorite stage, and it is one of the more interesting
hmm
stages where you enter a carnival and there's clown zombies, which is very like iconic, and you're running around just like there's a ton of like mini games set up everywhere. So there's the you're walking through the carnival and there's all these booths set up where you can shoot them, play mini games, and you can unlock the gnome, which you can take through the end of the level and get an achievement. So there's a lot going on in Dark Carnival.
Wait, wait, I'm reading this now. Xbox players actually got scammed. It was free on PC. They
They
paid
probably,
$6.99.
I wonder if they wanted people to play on X or PC more or something. I don't know. That's weird.
There was definitely something like maybe something with the porting made them like yeah, I don't know. I would imagine that there was something that they had to uh something they needed to make money off of to like make it worth for them to put it on Xbox. So I don't know. It
Yeah,
was probably something with the porting.
yeah, something where they had to port. Like if they were going to port it, they were like, all right, we're not gonna port this for free because it's like a lot of extra work.
Yeah,
Yeah, who knows? Someone knows.
somebody out there,
Um, but yeah,
some
James,
former Valve employee.
what did you think of Dark Carnival?
Dark Carnival. I think I'm trying. I'm trying to remember all of them before I say this. Yeah, I think this was probably my favorite one.
Hmm.
I think it was pretty well paced actually. The areas were different enough. There were lots of fun mini games. The finale was probably I would probably say that was the best finale.
Yeah, and that finale being the you get to a rock star, you get to a rock concert stage,
Yeah.
and then you're shooting zombies while setting up fireworks, and the rock music is like playing, and you're fight. It's like you're in the stadiums running around, like yeah, all the spectacle again on all these finales. Whereas Left 4 Dead 1, the finale is like, all right, you're in a building, survive like 4 waves of tanks, and it's like okay.
Yeah. And there's just so many memorable things from this level, like the little swamp part and like the hotels, the roller coaster, all the mini games, of course, like the strongman game, I think,
Hmm.
whatever that's called.
Oh yeah,
Also the gnome, the slide that you have to go down at some point. Yeah, this is a really cool
yeah.
level.
It's a very fun, colorful, kind of like funny. It kind of really emphasizes the comedy aspect of Left 4 Dead 2, whereas Left 4 Dead
Yeah,
1 was a little more grounded, and Left 4 Dead
yeah.
2 is silly and zany with characters yelling out Kitty Land and talking about how they want to ride the roller coaster and all that stuff.
I think it was very good that they chose to not take themselves as seriously with Left 4 Dead 2. I think
I
that's
think,
part of what gives the game like that's part of why the game is so beloved. I think.
yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why like Back for Blood people don't like as much because like the characters aren't as like uh they don't have as much personality, and I haven't really played it. I don't know if the stages are like fun rather than just being like an infinite like grind treadmill kind of a game where it's just like
Yeah.
oh grind for your gear and cards and all that kind of stuff.
To be
Uh,
fair, I think that part of the reason why Left 4 Dead 2 was allowed to not take itself as seriously was because Left 4 Dead 1 existed.
yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
kind of like the New Vegas of Fallout 3 to Fallout 3, where like Fallout 3, although that was a situation of a different company making it, but
yeah,
it's kind of like we're gonna do our own funky weird version of the thing but
yeah. It's because Left 4 Dead very much defined what what the series was about, and then Left 4 Dead 2 kind of subverted it.
yeah. And it's crazy to me that they released these DLC maps, they released Left 4 Dead 2, and they just never added more stuff to it. It just kind of exists still. to this day, it seems like they could have added a lot more. And maybe if it came out, if probably if
Mhm.
it came out um more like contemporary in a contemporary time, it would have more. It would have had like a live. It would have been like a live service game where they just kept adding maps and stuff like that.
Maybe. I mean,
But
Valve does live service a little differently than other companies will. Like they don't really do like seasons. They kind of when the patches come, they come. Uh, like I mean, speaking from the perspective of a Dota player, which is like the most, it's pretty much the most live service that Valve gets. Um, yeah, like patches come when they come. Seasonal things aren't too frequent. Like they do them usually around this time of the year. They do something, but it's a lot more. What's the word I'm thinking of? It's a lot more spontaneous, I guess.
mhm. Sporadic up
Yeah,
patch updates. I remember from playing Team Fortress 2, just like, yeah, we'll just sometimes we'll do something or sometimes we won't for
yeah.
many years. But
But I think
yeah,
that Valve also does make their games in a way that they're very easy to come back to, and they have longevity not necessarily because of variety, but because the base gameplay loop is so fun, and they do naturally put enough variance in their games that two playthroughs aren't the same. Like we didn't talk about it too much, but Left 4 Dead 2, they have this thing called the Director, which is like what spawns the enemies, and it actually reacts to it both reacts to your situation and also has like generally randomized stuff. Like for example, if you're very split from your team, uh, the game will actually try to spawn like a smoker or something near you.
mhm.
And we actually experienced that quite a few times where it's like somebody was catching up and then there's just a smoker or a charger, like some sort of immobilizing uh, special infected that you had to have a teammate shoot. And it also does some. I don't remember exactly the details, but it does some different things when you're grouped up that make it so that you get split up more. Like I think if you're grouped up, they might spawn more chargers or something.
I do like how this game really promotes co-op, and it is one of those games where it is really co-op heavy, but you could totally play with random people online and
Hmm.
not really have to communicate that hard. Everyone kind of knows what they're doing. Like it's not one of those games where, oh, it's a really fun co-op game, but it's like you need to be super serious, like you need to know exactly what you're doing, otherwise you're going to get kicked. Like maybe on a harder difficulty, like if you're playing realism on the hardest difficulty, I would imagine people get very upset. But if you're playing on advanced or normal, people are just gonna hang out and have a good time.
I'm actually reading up on the director a little bit. There's a lot of very interesting stuff here. Like it has phases, so there's a build up, which is like right when you're leaving the safe house, and it's kind of getting ready to hit you with like a bunch of common infected and stuff. Like when you actually leave, which is why like when you're just sitting in the door, not much happens. There's a peak where survivors are essentially at maximum intensity, and they measure intensity by how much you're getting attacked and how much attacking you're doing. Um, there's like a relaxing phase after that to kind of make the pacing feel a lot better, like 30 to 45 seconds where there's not much happening. Um, it also adapts to the intensity that you're under, because if you're already in an intense situation, it'll actually throw more at you. And then there are times when it actually turns itself off. But when it's off, the cooldowns of basically the infected don't have cooldowns on their spawns when it's off. So the moment it turns on, they can just instantly spawn.
Hmm. Yeah, it felt like a lot of these things were happening. I mean, I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
think about the technical side of it, but it does when you're playing the game and you do like run away from your group. Yeah, you're gonna get immediately like, oh, I'm in danger. I'm probably gonna get hit by something. You feel that like need to get back into a formation, and
Yeah.
all these little things. Like I don't think you're ever truly that much in danger, depending on the difficulty, because they will spawn health kits accordingly. And it's like, oh, it feels like a lucky break to find a health kit sometimes, but it's the game
Mm-hmm.
keeping you kind of at a certain level of difficulty,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty fair. We started playing on I think advanced, which is the second most difficult, but it's not really that bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. As I'm reading more, it's like talking about how it'll spawn certain items if you're like doing poorly. Um, so it'll actually despawn like idle infected sometimes to make the hordes that are coming at you bigger. Um, and it has like these, as I was talking about before, it'll have these patterns. Like it won't throw these two super hard sections at you back to back. It'll actually give you some time to breathe. I
Hmm.
think it's just cool that it has all these rules because you could actually like learn them and be able to predict what's going to happen in the future. I think that's
Yeah,
also where a lot of the replayability ends up coming from. Is not just the fact that it exists, but the fact that you can actually predict it. So it's something
yeah,
to
and
master.
I do think the placement of the things like witches and stuff like that being randomized and having the placement of certain items being randomized and all that, I think that adds to it. And there's also a
Hmm.
series of modifications, like there's like those mutation you can do, which
Yeah,
we didn't really explore. But there seemed to be a pretty big list of weird variants for game modes that could add some replayability
yeah. I was
if
looking. I
you're.
looked through that a bit as well. Yeah, they were
Mhm.
pretty cool.
Tank Run being notable. I assume
Hmm.
from the name of Tank Run, they just spawn constant tanks against you,
Yeah.
which could be fun.
Um, but yeah, I did notice that the spawning of special infected and stuff was much better in Left 4 Dead 2. Partially because some of the special infected weren't meant to be in Left 4 Dead 1, but also because of the map design. Like I think almost every witch we ran into was actually avoidable. I don't think there were very many situations where we actually had to kill the witch. There were a bunch we chose to kill, of course, but like I remember the one. This is a little bit later, but when we were playing the parish earlier, and there was that one witch in the building that we basically like snuck around,
Hmm.
and that never happened in Left 4 Dead 1, like almost never,
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
witches would
because
always be on some like straight corridor or something.
the corridors were really narrow, and
Yeah.
we would just get cornered by a witch. We'd have to take them out.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I guess the next map will be Swamp Fever, which kind of we could talk about a little bit how each map or each campaign has kind of a special infected that isn't like
Hmm.
one of these special infected like tank whatever, the
Yeah.
tank charger
A
spitter
special a
whatever.
special common infected.
Yeah, so in the previous stage it was the clown who would honk their nose and it
Yeah.
would draw people's aggro. In
It,
Swamp Fever there's like mudmen
hmm
that are just kind of crawling whatever.
Yeah, they crawl on all
Um,
fours, and when they get close to you, they put mud on your screen.
yeah. But I think Swamp Fever was okay. I didn't like it that much. It's kind of slow because you're running through a lot of muck and
Hmm.
it's kind of samey. Not my favorite of the levels that we played.
Yeah, it was a little samey. I agree.
Yeah.
The finale was okay. It was a little weird at times because I guess it was weird because the enemies spawned in the building that you were holding as well as in front of you. So it always felt like you were sandwiched
Hmm.
and like everybody had to be like really on their toes, which would be good if the area you had to move through when you're not in the building wasn't split up by all these bushes and stuff. Because I think the idea they were going for is like, oh, you don't actually hold the building, you have to move around, but there are so many dead ends and like ways that you can back yourself into a wall there that I feel like it is a little rough to straight up not hold the building at all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that Swamp Fever was just ultimately kind of forgettable in terms of just the levels in general. I mean, you meet Virgil, who's probably the best part of that level, the kindly
Yeah.
skipper man who is just very nice to you and takes you on his boat. And he basically like kind of like carries you through the rest of the campaigns.
Hmm.
Just this nice guy in the world of Left 4 Dead 2 that you never see because he doesn't need a model.
Yeah, Virgil was pretty pog
Yeah.
at
But it
times.
leads into my favorite stage of the campaigns, Hard Rain. Still, it was my favorite before playing the game. It still holds up as my favorite. It is simple. It's a long map, but it doesn't feel long. And you'd think that. So the whole concept of Hard Rain is that you're in a city trying to get fuel or whatever, and you have to go all the way to the end point to get fuel. And now, usually in these campaigns, it's a straight line to the end.
Hmm.
It's linear. But in this campaign, you're running to point B from point A, and then you have to run back to point A from point B. So you're going through the stage backwards. But the initial time you're going through the stage, it's not raining, and then there's a hurricane at the end, which changes the terrain and changes up everything. And it is still by far my favorite of the campaigns of both Left 4 Dead 1 and 2.
Hmm. Yeah, this is one of my favorites too. I think one thing that was really cool that I was kind of thinking about throughout the level is So we were talking about how the rain made it very hard to see things visually. Like there were times where you literally couldn't see 5 feet in front of you, and it actually made it a lot harder to go back the way you came, which I think was a really clever way of not making it feel the same. Because even though you're doing it backwards, it could very easily feel the same. 'Cause it's the same terrain, and the answer to getting through a certain area could be the same. Um, but the rain actually makes making it a lot harder to see. If you're on realism, I actually imagine that'd be a very cool experience because you don't have the outlines on your teammates.
Oh yeah, that
So
would be
yeah,
really hard
yeah, I
to
feel like
tell what's going on.
that'd be cool to do sometimes. It's just like yeah, I think that was probably something that they had in mind when they were creating it. Um, because at that point, like that's actually even more cooperation that you need because you need to be able to communicate with your teammates where you are exactly, and like you also need to essentially be doing things together so you're actually within people's vision a lot of the time.
Yeah, that has some of my favorite moments in the maps of running through the cornfield and you can't see
Yeah, the
anything. There's
cornfield
just
was
zombies
cool.
everywhere,
All the
and
witches on the
also
level too, I thought those were
yeah,
great because there was always a way to get around them, as we were talking about before, with the difference between Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. But there were a lot of them, and it really it was almost like solving a puzzle at times trying to get past them. So you had to look around and see like what you could use in the environment to actually get around them.
yeah, you're kind of stealthing around the witches
Yeah.
instead of it adds a little bit of that survival horror to the horror game, even though I don't find this
Hmm.
game to be a horror game really. But yeah, it gives you that. I don't know. It changes up the gameplay enough, and I don't. It was. I think we spent 30 minutes on this level, and it
Yeah.
felt way quicker than the other campaigns, and it was still fun to play through. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, no, I really liked the stage still. I thought the sound was really cool. It looks really good, like visually
Yeah.
still, and the sound was cool when you went into a building. You'd hear like the rain hitting the roof and stuff like that. It was really nice.
Hmm.
Um, and then that leads you to the last level, which honestly, it felt like Left 4 Dead 2 was a lot shorter than Left 4 Dead 1 campaigns, or maybe it's just because they felt more satisfying. I guess it didn't feel like it
Yeah.
dragged on as much.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, you get to the parish, and the parish is like, all right, you're just running through like a city. It's kind
Yeah.
of cool.
I kind of I do see what they were doing with this level. It was a little bit more linear, similar to the Left 4 Dead 1 levels, but I think that they did a good job of using certain landmarks to make it not feel like you're just running around these straight corridors, like the park in the second part of the level, where it's like the bushes surrounding the park kind of split it up a little bit, but it's actually a decent amount of open space. There are very well defined chokes that you can kind of get stuck in if you're not careful. Um, then the cemetery in the third part, where again it was kind of broken up by like fences and tombstones, but there were like certain pathways that you could utilize. There was also the pile up of cars, some of which had alarms they had to sort of navigate through. We were actually really lucky we didn't get a tank on that one because that would have been
Mm.
awful. But yeah, I have had a tank there before. It's just nightmarish. I also think that the special common infected the police officers were really cool because you had to either shove them or melee them to get them to turn around, then shoot them in the back, which that kind of breaks up the flow of how you're actually approaching enemies a little bit more. Because to be honest, in this game, the answer to everything besides the witch is pretty much just to shoot it. There's not really
Yeah,
much more to the question. It's yeah, it's really is you're shooting through everything, and sometimes you just get stat checked. But yeah, the I think that was probably my favorite special common infected in the game, and I think that again, it's something that separates a level like this from most of the Left 4 Dead 1 levels. It both requires you to do a little bit more on a mechanical level, as well as giving you a few more options as far as what paths you want to take and stuff like that.
yeah. I didn't realize how to kill the zombies at first, the armored zombies, and the characters were actually in game saying like, "Oh, we can only shoot them from behind," like really like spelling it out for you at the end, which was
Yeah.
nice to kind of have that. Because it is like when you are shooting at a zombie and he's just like not dying, it is a little confusing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think they were interesting enough, and I honestly think the finale of the parish was one of the more fun finales because you're
Yeah.
racing each other on a bridge, and
Hmm.
I think it's kind of a fun thing to see who can like beat each other almost because you're kind of racing your friends, even though you're doing it cooperatively. It is
Yeah.
kind of fun. It was just fun
Yeah, and
running.
there were weapons on the ridge and stuff like that. I like that it was very different from the other finales where it's you're actually going somewhere instead of holding a position.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought it was nice.
there was one other thing I keep forgetting. Oh yeah, you were talking about with the characters saying that you had to shoot the police officer infected in the back. I really like the way that this game used the dialogue to sort of tutorialize things, where it didn't actually feel unnatural because obviously if you're fighting zombies with people and you realize, oh, we can just kill them by shooting them in the back, you'd say it. So it never felt like it never felt like the characters just turning to the camera and being like, shoot this guy in the back to win the game or
Yeah,
something like
this
that.
coach looks at you and is like, "Truly, we were a Left for Dead 2."
God.
Oh yeah, just also something to note, just having fun with your friends. We played this with friends. We were doing like a full like party. We played with random people too at one
Hmm.
point, which is equally kind of fun. Just spamming voice lines was fun. They don't really like limit you on that, so we were just
Yeah.
spamming like "Ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?" like over and over again. That was
Hmm.
fun. Doing a lot of that kind of nonsense and shenanigans, which is enjoyable in a cooperative game. One contemporary kind of example I would say is Deep Rock Galactic. I'm not sure. Have you played that game, James, at all?
I don't believe I have.
Oh, it's a four-player game where you mine. It's like these like small missions. You mine things and shoot aliens or whatever. But
Hmm.
there's a dedicated button to like yelling. So you press the button and you just yell like "Rock and Stone." You just there's like a dedicated yell button. And any game with a dedicated yell button, and also Chivalry and Chivalry 2, they have a
Hmm.
dedicated yell button. It's fun to yell in a game, you know? It's fun to spam voice lines with your friends.
Yes,
So I'm
voice
glad
lines are
that
very
that added
fun.
a lot to the game.
God.
Um
Uh,
but yes, James, did the game for you. So this was your pick, Left 4 Dead 2. Did it hold up? Did it fulfill all your wishes and dreams?
yeah, I think it held up. We were talking about it a little bit at the end of our playthrough, but I don't think it's necessarily a game you just binge.
Mhm.
Outside of maybe versus, I could see people playing that for a while. Um, but I think I think you can only handle so many goofy scenarios with your friends where they refuse to shoot the jockey that's killing you before you kind of yeah you have to get off.
Yeah, I think the same thing happens with a lot of the games we've played on the show right now. Is we're trying to crunch it into a week segment, and then we like will procrastinate, not play the game for a week, and then we're like, all right, we got to do it like the night of if we're recording the podcast, and then in a game like this, you really want to be doing like two campaigns, maybe like maximum a night with your
Yeah.
friends. Hop on, do two campaigns, whatever. Like doing a full run of Left 4 Dead 1 or 2 is just it gets old. But it has that thing that gets you back into it. So it's like it
Hmm.
gets a little old, but if you stop playing it after doing like two campaigns, you'll be thinking about it the next day and be like, "Man, maybe I should get back on that game and, play it again."
Yeah.
That's what I was getting out of it.
Yeah. Definitely, I agree.
But I will say, I said this before when I played Left 4 Dead 2. I had 90 hours, and I said, "All right, I'm good. I never have to play this game again. If I never play it again in my life, I'll be good with it. Like I've done all I wanted to do in the game, and you know what? I'm glad I revisited it, but I could take it or leave it, to be honest, because there's just a lot of games out there. Now that I've done it really, like I felt like I've really completed it in
Hmm.
terms of uh playing all the campaigns at least once. I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. I think when it was one of the only things like it at the time, I could see myself playing it more. But where there's a world where like Vermintide exists and the sequel and Back for Blood, even though people don't seem to like it, and all these other co-op games, it's like, you know what? I can play some new stuff. They'll learn
Yeah.
some of them learned from Left 4 Dead 2, and put their own spin on things.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it right now.
Yeah, I think I agree. it was certainly revolutionary for the time, and I think it definitely still holds up, as I was saying before. But the genre or the subgenre, I guess, of like I guess you could call them Left for Dead likes. There's enough of them out there that I do not think I could play this game as a primary game like I used to.
Yeah. You know what's weird about a game like this? It's weird that there are certain games that I can go back to and replay 100,000 times that are like single player games usually. Something like a Minish Cap, like Legend of Zelda Minish Cap, or something like a GBA Zelda
Hmm.
game, or like, oh, I'll go back and I'll play Mario 3, or I'll play Half-Life 2, and I'll replay it and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, this is, you know what? I'm glad I replayed this." But when it comes to a game like this that's like a multiplayer online thing, I don't know, there is this like, I don't know if I need to come back for this. I kind of got the experience. And maybe there's a lot of games that you can't really do that with, because it seems like old online games besides Valve games, they shut down and then you can't play them. And you're like, oh, like this sucks. Like I can't play this game anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
thankfully the servers are still up for. Are there any Valve games that have just taken the servers down straight up?
I think Day of Defeat, they didn't take the servers down. I just don't
Day
think
of
anyone
Defeat.
plays that game. Like I don't think there's I think there maybe will be like one server somewhere. And I mean, with dedicated servers, you can always host your own,
Hmm.
so they don't have to worry, I guess. But it is becoming a thing with online games where it's like, well, one thing like that was like a dead game. Like I want to play Little Big Planet, which is like a PS3 game, and I think Little Big Planet 1 and 2 servers are down. Even like
Hmm.
if you wanted to do that, I think there's Little Big Planet 3 or something that people didn't like, or whatever, or the four. I don't even remember how many there are at this point, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that game's offline. One of the biggest components of it was the online, and now it's kind of a dead game. Like I can't do that experience anymore. And I had that with Dungeon Fighter Online, which is this MMO that Nexon of America published, I think, here for a while, and then that
Hmm.
game went under, and you couldn't play it for like a couple of years, and then the original developers, I think like Neopol or something. They brought it back, and then so for like multiple years, I was like, I can't fill the void. I want to play this game so bad. I haven't been able to play it, and then it came back, and I played it a lot for like a week, and then I have not touched it since. And it's like,
Man.
well, I hope it doesn't shut down again, but I'm not playing it. Yeah, I think it's kind of like having the option. I want to have the option still there to play it, but I don't want to play it right now.
Yeah, I want to have the option. I'm not necessarily going to play it, but I want to have the choice to play it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like if you think about games now, like Overwatch, like you can't play Overwatch anymore. You can only play Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a different experience, but it is like it's weird with these games as a service, like ongoing forever games. And maybe it's good that Left 4 Dead 2 stopped where they did and they didn't add more stuff, because now it's just like this time capsule of like you can experience the exact same thing. But the problem
Yeah.
is there's never going to be new stuff unless it's like user created.
Yeah, but I do think it's fine to move on sometimes, like in the same way that they don't have to work on the game forever. You don't have to play it forever, and it is fine.
Hmm. But
There are
not for
other
the Have You
things.
Ever Played podcast, where the whole show is about playing games that we've already played, basically. Oh man, yeah, that is weird. To think about. What are some other games right now that you're playing, like that are multiplayer, kind of like that, that'll never be the same? Like I can think of the Souls games and how you could still play them, but sometimes the servers go down and it's not as interesting when there's not online interaction,
Hmm.
like that kind of stuff. But at least they're
Um,
playable. Some games straight up won't be playable.
yeah. I mean, I guess like any live service game that does regular patches, you could argue like, oh, I can't play patch 6.825 anymore. The game was really great back then, but I can't do it. The game's
I
so
think
different. They added a billion items and they reworked all the characters.
I think people do that with like I think you're talking from an Apex lens, I assume, because that sounds like a battle
Multiple
royale.
games, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a battle royale kind of problem where like imagine playing Fortnite, like the first variation of Fortnite, like right now versus
Mm-hmm.
current season, and just it's like not even the same game in any shape or form.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's kind of in their like FOMO design where it's like, all right, you need to play each season, otherwise you'll never see this content again.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Yeah,
don't know,
and I do
it's
think the
weird.
modding community for lots of games do kind of cover that.
Yeah, I think even games like I think they have Fantasy Star Online, like the GameCube version. I think there's like they like reverse engineered to like make a private server that you can connect to on the original hardware for that game, so you can still play it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if the demand is there, someone's probably gonna mod a way for you to be able to play these games. But
Yeah.
you have to wait, and it'd be nice to have an official way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Titanfall didn't Titanfall 2 have that issue where were they stopping the servers, or I know you it's
Um,
hard to find games in Titanfall.
the server. So Titanfall was never crazy popular, so it does take time to find a game. But I think there was like some DDoSing stuff with the servers, and the community like created their they like run their own server or something. I think it's called like the North Star client, something like that. I don't know. And then it has some mods on it, and they do like I believe they've done a couple updates.
Hmm. Yeah,
Added some modes.
and I guess from an MMO perspective, you do have private servers existing for various patches of games like WoW and MapleStory being
Hmm.
relevant to me. Um, yeah, these private servers, which is like kind of a weird gray area. Not, I mean, it's very not legal, I think, for them to be running this copyrighted material. But if an MMO is like dead, you can't play it anymore. There's kind of not a whole lot of options.
Man,
Oh man. Well, that was our Left 4 Dead 2 tirade. I guess
yes.
kind of got off topic there, but what would your okay? So I guess what if Back for Blood didn't exist? What would your ideal Left 4 Dead 3 look like?
Um, sheesh. 8-player co-op.
8 play. I mean, they kind of have that with versus mode in a way.
Uh, yeah. the, the special infected and the survivors work together to kill all the common infected, or
Wait.
they
All right. No,
team up on a
actually,
witch.
skip Left 4 Dead 3. Skip ahead to Left 4 Dead 5, and they can call it Left 5 Dead, and it's 5-player co-op. Like that's the new gimmick.
Damn.
Um, yeah, no. I think I was thinking about that. Like maybe they could have just done another campaign with another set of new 4 survivors and another thing. They could have just done the exact same thing. But I'm like, maybe
Hmm.
they didn't want to do that because it is kind of like,
Yeah,
do we want to just keep doing the same thing over and over again?
yeah. I think with Left 4 Dead 1, they kind of set a standard. Left 4 Dead 2, they like subverted expectations. I don't really feel like there's. I don't think they need to go much farther. I would say,
Mhm.
like
Well,
anything that they could do with a new game, I would say they might as well just do with the DLC.
yeah, and that's kind of the Valve thing though too, where it's like Half-Life 1 like was a crazy technical marvel. Then they waited. Half-Life 2 was a crazy technical marvel. Then they waited. Half-Life Alex was a crazy technical marvel. And it's like
Hmm.
they're not going to make a new game unless it can like change a lot. Um or I guess if it's like a Counter-Strike to a source to a CS:GO situation where it's like, all right, we need if we're going to have a competitive game, it needs to be the most up-to-date modern version of what it can be.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that I kind of think Valve realized the whole trilogy problem, where it's like when you innovate on something once, doing it another time is like really risky. And obviously, I think there was a Gabe Newell interview where he said like, if there's literally too much pressure on us for us to actually make Half-Life 3, because I think he said something along the lines of like, no matter what we do, it's going to be disappointing for like the fans, and it's just not. They just I don't think they like consider it worth the time necessarily to just make a straight up third game and not focus on eh, just build it around being a third game and not necessarily showing off some sort of tech or something like that.
Yeah, and also like imagine releasing a like a triple A single player first person shooter game in like today. And then just
Yeah,
like it's like do I want to do that or do I want to print infinity money with some sort of competitive loot treadmill whatever game? You
yeah,
know what I mean? That's kind of what people are putting a lot of money into.
Hmm. But I do think that Valve basically, at this point, basically being a tech company, does give them a very unique view on like actually making new games and stuff like that. Like I remember with Dota 2, they released an update where they put the game on Source 2, and like that was many people consider that to essentially be like Dota 3. Like it's basically a by Valve standards that is a sequel.
Yeah, Dota 2 existing.
Man.
Um, yeah, I guess. I mean, they innovated on I mean, Dota the mod, like Defense of the Ancients or whatever.
Hmm.
They definitely innovated on that, and it is funny that Dota has always been a weird thing to me because it was a Blizzard mod. Like it was a mod of a
Yeah.
Blizzard game that Valve owns. So all the characters are Blizzard. They're like, I don't. Are they actually the Warcraft characters, or are they like
Um,
weird versions of the Warcraft characters?
so how it worked is back in the mod, all the characters had like they had like a name and a title, and I
Yeah.
think Blizzard had the rights to a bunch of the names, and then another. They had a bunch of bullshit rights, like, oh, we have the right to a skeleton king. Like, dude, do you know how many skeleton kings there are? Are you serious?
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, what ended up happening is most characters. Well, first of all, they're different characters. Like, character Anti Mage and Terrorblade, they used to be like brothers, and like they had this whole backstory, but they're just completely different now. So it's not the same characters. Some of them have the same title. Some of them had to be changed. Like the character Necrophos used to be Necrolight. Wind Ranger used to be Wind Runner. Like
Hmm.
lots of it is very, very subtle changes just so that they can't get sued by Blizzard. But yeah, it's very bizarre. The funny thing is Blizzard actually could have had the rights to Dota, and I think like Ice Frog came to them and they just kind of said no.
Yeah, that was a weird. And then they made their own really highly successful MOBA. What's it called?
Heroes of the
Heroes of the
Storm.
Storm. That one, the game MOBA that everyone plays. It
Yeah,
is
and then
highly successful.
I believe they shut it. I think the servers are still up, but they just don't support the game anymore.
Yeah,
And they like
I don't
shut
know.
down the competitive scene, something like that.
Well, I'm enjoying what Valve's doing with hardware. The Steam
Hmm.
Deck is great. One of my favorite things. One of my favorite like toys of all time. The Steam Deck. It is so
Yeah.
fun. It's just you can do everything with it. I'm waiting for another one. Steam Deck 2, make it stronger, cooler. It's just really awesome. And I think handhelds are more I always love handheld devices more than like a console. I think they're a little more magical because kind of like a self-contained unit. I've always really had a fondness for any kind of a handheld, and it sucks
Hmm.
that like Sony. I mean, the PS Vita was a real flop, and it kind of scared them. I think
Yeah.
from making any more handhelds. But the PSP was cool. It was neat. Like, give me more handhelds.
Yeah, the
Nintendo
handheld
always
market
makes a good
is
one.
handheld market has been in a kind of sad place for a bit. So I am really happy that Valve released Steam Deck.
I think the handheld of the future is just always going to have like some sort of docking potential for your TV.
Yeah,
Um,
I
I,
agree.
I mean, they already kind of did that with the Game Boy era, where they had the GBA like peripheral. Actually, you know what?
Hmm.
Even before the Game Boy Advance, they had the Super Game Boy on like the Super Nintendo, where you just put in a Game Boy cartridge and you'd play it on your TV. And I thought that was
Yeah,
the coolest thing of all time. Um,
I'm just thinking of that Game Boy with all the attachments on it.
oh yeah,
It's fully kitted.
because you couldn't see like the original Game Boys that didn't have the backlit screen.
Yeah, you had like a
Um,
little lamp thing on it or whatever.
yeah, well, it was more of a Game Boy Advanced issue where it's just you had a magnifying glass with a light on it, with like a light beam and a holder and like 400 accessories, just to
Yeah,
try to see it, and you're burning through batteries, like AA batteries. Oh man,
and those were the times.
yeah. I mean, I'm very nostalgic for Game Boy Advance games, and we may be playing one at some point.
Mayhaps.
Not, yeah. Well, we are going. I will suggest one of a lot of the Castlevania games, which were
Hmm.
GBA DS era. Oh, there we go.
Error.
Um, yeah. I'm just looking at. So by the way, so to give a little insight to the podcast, I'm looking at a list of. So if you want to send us a message, we're kind of at that time. If you want to send us an email or a question or just want to yell at us, send a message to the HYEP podcast at gmail.com. That is HYEP podcast at gmail.com. But for this week, I Googled once again funny questions to ask because they're usually like horrific. And yeah, let me wait. I'm just sorry. I'm just like looking at some of these questions and they're making me
Yeah.
very confused. Like, what's invisible but you wish people could see? And I mean that I think
What?
means something in like a metaphysical way. Like what like do you ever feel invisible and want to be seen kind of deal? You know what I
Maybe
mean?
it's like, what do you want more people to know about
Yeah,
or
like what is a
something? Like,
cause
I
that's
don't know. Like,
invisible?
man, what's your favorite slept on video game?
Is that a question for me? Oh, we have dual questions going on?
Man, I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
wait.
that's my interpretation of the question personally.
Wait, James, what we should do? All right, this is the new segment. I need you to Google questions to ask me, and I will ask you these questions, and we will try to forge a friendship out of these, like,
Uh,
basically icebreaker questions.
gonna search video game related questions.
Well, mine are not even close to video game
50
related, but
fun
go
questions
whatever.
about video games to ask your friends. Oh
Uh,
boy.
James, what's the best type of cheese, or what's your favorite type of cheese? And I'll separate it into categories as junk cheese, which could be artificial, it could be any of that, and like actual like gourmet kind of like good cheese, like a real cheese.
Uh, well, for junk cheese, I have to go with American because I bleed red, white, and blue.
Oh, okay. Good answer. Good answer. Good answer. We like
Um,
that. It's number one on the board.
for actual cheese, I'm a Parmesan fan.
Oh, that's
You know, I'm
good.
not
Like,
not like a crazy cheese connoisseur or anything. I've had a decent amount of different kinds of cheese. I don't like regularly eat cheese because I am lactose intolerant. But
oh wow.
however,
Imagine,
sometimes I'm willing to suffer the consequences for some Parmesan.
James, how can you be intolerant of lactose in year of our Lord 2022?
They're
Come
the
on.
lactose. They're just terrible. I hate them. They can get out of my country.
Oh wow. Okay. Um. Yeah, I agree with you with the American cheese thing because it is good on like a. You can't put like if you put a slice of plastic American cheese on a burger, it's just the best. It's so good. It's a good melted or make a grilled
Oh my
cheese out of it.
god.
There's something about it that's good. And like that
these
spray cheese stuff is it's salt. It's so good.
these
It's just I
questions
love
are so
salt.
great. All
Um
right.
and
My
then
question
gourmet
for
cheese. Well, I got to answer the gourmet cheese now.
okay.
Maybe a nice I mean, I'm always like eating cheddar cubes. I like mozzarella cheese, like sticks, stuff like that. But I mean, I would say maybe a nice provolone or something, melted
Mm.
especially on a meatball sub or something like that. That
Ooh.
hits different.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. What's your question?
The question that I so this is an actual question in the top 50 questions about video games to ask your friends. What's your opinion on Fortnite?
I think I've already asked this on the podcast. Actually, we might have looked at that before. My opinion. I think I literally asked this to you. Or maybe I
Maybe.
asked this to Ryan. I might have asked this to Ryan on one of the
Maybe.
podcasts you were sick. But I'll answer again. I think that Fortnite. Well, my friend told me to play Fortnite back in the day before the battle royale mode was even like a thing that was relevant. He's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, there's a new like tower survival game," and I'm like, "Eh, it looks kind of stupid. Whatever, tower survival." And then I was around people who were like dude bros who were like, "Yo, bro, like Fortnite is crazy," and I was like, "Oh, you don't play video games usually, guy who's like not a video game kind of guy." And I was like, "You're playing the children's tower defense game Fortnite? That's weird." And then I realized that it was like this battle royale mode, and everyone was so into it, and
Hmm.
it was crazy. And I'm like, "Oh, well, you know what? I'll give it a shot." I only had it on console, really. I was like, I don't really think this is that fun for me personally. I don't really like the genre. Didn't really get into it. But I'm glad people like it. If people like it, it's up to them. You know. Maybe
Hmm.
if I had the Fortnite when I was younger, I would have probably been obsessed with it too. It's not my
Hmm.
my generation was obsessed with like Call of Duty basically. This is
Yeah.
their new thing. What
Yeah.
about you, James?
So actually, I remember my freshman year of college, or our freshman year of college, when Fortnite was first starting to blow up. I remember all my friends were talking about like, "Oh my god, Ninja broke the new streaming record. He's streaming with Drake." I'm like, cool. I don't really play that game, but sure. And then I actually like I had seen Fortnite before, and I was like, oh, okay. But like nowadays, I feel like the game is it's a roller coaster, like or an amusement park or something. Like it every time I see Fortnite, there's some like new wacky mechanic or like thing on the map. There's just like there's so much going on. I don't think my brain would be able to actually handle it. Like
Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah,
And like
like
you're running around as Rick Sanchez versus like Thanos versus like
yeah,
John Wick versus like Travis Scott, and you're what is this?
like I think it's that game is amazing for kids because it's literally just sensory overload.
Yeah.
Nothing at any point that you see on your screen is like it's unholy at times. None
Yeah,
of these things
yeah.
were in the Bible.
It's well, maybe some of them are. You don't know who's in there right now. Like honestly, like
Oh my god, actually they're probably gonna add Jesus someday.
you just get in there. David from David and Goliath's chilling. Yeah, just like with Rick
You get in
Sanchez.
there and Moses is in there. He has a parting the water emote
Yeah, he
or parting the
dabs and
ocean
parts the
emote.
Red Sea.
Oh man.
I have this question is probably the greatest question I've ever read in my life. Where's the strangest place you've urinated or defecated? Do you have
Oh
a
my
good
god.
strange urine or defecation story?
Uh hmm. I don't think so. I think one time when I was at Boy Scout camp,
Okay, this is good.
um, I, I was on my way back to like our campground, but I really had to poop.
Yes.
So I think I accidentally pooped on a snake. Yeah, that was weird because it was like it was one of those ones that like blends in with the leaves. It was really weird.
Well,
It didn't like do anything, but like man,
that poor snake. Like, how did the snake stay still? Was it like the snake was sitting there, or was it in transit and like mid transition? You like
I
hit it.
I don't know. I just think like when I was done, I saw a snake under him. Like damn.
Oh, that no, that is a great answer. Yeah, no. I was trying to think of any like weird place. I don't know if I've ever gone to Browntown outside. You know, I don't know if I've ever.
Hmm.
I
Damn,
don't know if
never
I've ever.
outside.
No, but I've never went like camping or anything like that. Like,
That is true.
I don't think I've ever done that. I think someone in my neighborhood one time, like a human person, took a log, if you will, on someone's lawn, and they thought it was like a dog, but it was a person. It was clearly a person.
Oh my god.
Um, I think my own personal story. This is wow. Welcome to the potty talk on the pod.
Potty talk.
I mean, I have a story from literally last night where I was at this club kind of deal, and there's toilets, right? And there's like a bathroom attendant in like these clubs, so the people aren't doing like hard drugs in the bathroom, basically, which is
Hmm.
fair enough. Being a bathroom attendant is a weird thing anyway, though. I'd never feel comfortable. I'm like just sitting next to this dude. I'm like, hey guys, um, but yeah, the toilets had those automatic flushers on them. Do you know how they have like the
Oh
sensor
yeah,
cameras? At least I think they did.
yeah. Those
Um,
scare me sometimes.
yeah. So the problem is, you know how there's usually that, and then there's like a button to flush or something.
Yeah.
I just couldn't locate the button, and it wasn't. I was like, waving my hand in front of this thing for like a couple minutes, and it's just like I couldn't figure it out. And I did this twice, and I just like walked out of the stall, and there's a dude there. So he heard you going to the bathroom, right?
Hmm.
He heard you, and I just like walk out without flushing, right? Because I couldn't figure it out. I was just like, oh, maybe it'll just when I leave it'll flush because there's a camera thing, and
Yeah.
there was no discernible button or lever or pulley anything. And I just walk out, and then I just see the dude, like, I wash my hands. I just see the dude get up and go to the stall. So he clearly had to deal with it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. I don't know what. I genuinely don't. I tried. I was in there for minutes, like, engineering, like, looking up schematics online. Like, I'm looking up the make and model. I'm like, I don't
Schematics.
understand. Well, I think maybe they were on the fritz. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe that's part of his job. He has to go in after everyone to like he has to put in like a key to like flush the I don't who knows.
Yeah. Whenever I use those, it always flushes while I'm on it. It's so
I
annoying.
I've had that happen a lot too. Like
Every
four
single
times. It's like
time.
flushed like four times.
Oh my god.
And then you feel weird too because if someone goes in there and you flush like you don't even start doing anything right and it flushes and then someone else is in there and they're like oh this guy is he's done or he's not or and then it happens like five times and it's just oh my god. Yeah, can we just make bathrooms better? Can we just have like the American stall of having like the 90-foot gap in a stall. And then just like you're not allowed to have. I think it's like supposed to be a drug thing. So if you're doing drug, they can like see you're underneath the stall or something. I don't know, but it's like,
Yeah.
can't we just have nice things? I don't know. I hate
Oh
public
god.
bathrooms.
I'm going through all these questions. There's some that are really funny. Like
Yo,
one's
hit
just
me.
I'm gonna read off a few. Are PC gamers really superior to
Oh, of
console
course, no,
players? Have you ever watched a Twitch stream?
no.
Xbox or PlayStation? Choose one! Explanation point.
The PC thing is so silly nowadays, especially because like all the consoles are just PCs
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, there's a lot of value in a console now if you just want to play like console games.
hmm
Um PC is nice to have because you can do other stuff on it, but like you can run games at 60 or like 120 or whatever on consoles now. So
Yeah. I mean,
that's great. Yeah.
I personally think by default, since all Xbox games are coming out on PC like at release, pretty much, I would prefer a PlayStation because like I don't want to have to wait until God of War Ragnarok comes out on PC. That's gonna be a while.
Yeah, but the fact that they're even releasing PlayStation games on PC now is like crazy to me, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll hit a point where companies realize, hey, uh, you know what? We'll make more money just releasing it on everything. Who cares? Exclusivity is
Yeah.
stupid. I know they want to sell
Well,
their consoles, and they sell them at a loss
Well, yeah.
for the
The reason
exclusivity.
why there are exclusives is just because basically the studios get like paid extra to make them exclusives, pretty much.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a way. It's just a good way for studios to essentially get guaranteed income, like even if the game fails.
just bring us Bloodborne PC, please,
Yes,
please.
please. Oh
I mean,
boy, like
yeah,
my god, these questions. What's your favorite fighting class? Warrior, mage, or rogue, and why?
that could be a good question. All right. Ready?
Uh,
Here's the deal. Here's the rub.
the rub.
Usually a warrior in a game sometimes tends to become, I mean, you might want to add like monk in there cuz
Yeah.
like warrior tends to become the tank, and tanks is okay. Like I'm thinking like a Final Fantasy style. Like tanks like whatever. I kind of want to be the berserker where it's like glass cannon kind of warrior, but you're going to be tanking. Mage is like it could be glass cannony, whatever. Casters usually I don't find that fun, depending on the game though. It could change.
hmm
Rogues I almost never play outside of like a D&D context because in D&D you can just say funny things as a rogue. But I never really like the dual blade sneaky mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a
Um,
warrior guy too. I don't ever like mages. Sometimes I like rogues if they're like not. I hate the bow and arrow like type rogue. That one's dumb.
yeah.
Sometimes I like assassin like characters, but I don't like like the squishy assassin characters if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like not many games have them, but like I know Battle Right, which I've been playing recently. There's like an assassin who he's like got invisibility, and when he exits the invisibility, he has like damage reduction. And then he also has like a bunch of other mobility stuff, which I thought was kind of cool. Yeah, it's either that or like poison style characters are cool too. I guess you technically call it Venom because I read this thing. It was talking about like, yeah, you know, if you bite it and it makes you sick or whatever, it's poisonous, and if it bites you and you get sick, it's venomous. But it's like, oh, okay, dude, I'm gonna call it poison anyway.
Hmm. And I'm
I'm not saying
toxic.
venomous. It reminds me of Venom, the Marvel anti-hero.
Oh yes, and Eminem's theme of Venom, gotta go get him,
Yes,
etc.
adrenaline, venom,
I
venom.
think I'll end it on this beautiful question. If peanut butter wasn't called peanut butter, what would it be called? It's just the
N-
dumbest question ever.
Nutter butter.
Yeah, it'd be called what is the answer they're looking for there? If peanut butter wasn't called peanut butter, what would it be called? What peanut sauce? It's not a sauce really,
Peanut
like
sauce.
peanut compound.
I mean, I guess it depends on what part you'd have to get rid of, like the peanut or the butter part.
No, there's no removal. Oh yes, no, you'd probably call it peanut something. It wouldn't be called butter. Like it wouldn't be called like butter rub. It's made of
Butter
peanuts.
rub.
It'd be like
Yeah, a
peanut.
dry rub of butter.
I don't know, like peanut essence. No, it's not essence. Like a peanut.
Peanut
I want to say
essence.
jelly. Honestly, like I could
I
see
don't think
people
it'd be
saying like
called
peanut
jelly.
jam. No, they could
peanut
call it like
jelly.
peanut jam, but I mean jam and jelly is like boiled or something. I don't know how do you make peanut butter.
I
You
don't.
like
I don't
mash a
know.
bunch of peanuts or something.
I mean, I don't know how you make. Actually, no, I do know how you make jelly. Never mind.
All right, and with that, I think that's a podcast. I've been
Yes.
Matt, aka Matt Fun Dude, on Twitter for now, Twitch, YouTube, etc.
Twitter for now.
Yeah. Um, and James, who have you been?
I've been James, aka James 04E on the social medias. Uh, butter rub enjoyer, peanut jelly enthusiast.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.